Hey folks, launching here today on Lake Marburg in Pennsylvania. Sort of overcast, but I think the sun's going to come out later. And I know it's mid-May, getting towards the end of May. It's going to be hot in the next couple days. So I think we'll still have some fish shallow, but I'm looking to find them exiting the spawning area and going out onto the first set of deep points in that direction out towards the main lake. Hopefully I can catch some post spawners. Before we get started, I wanted to do a walkthrough on this boat, and I've actually changed my depth finder setup. I was running with a Humminbird Helix 10 with one battery, which was the Dakota Lithium. It's actually the same setup, the 23 amp hour. That's been a good setup for me. I'm using that one to power this unit, which is the Lowrance HDS 7, which has the active target. To power the active target, I have a separate one. I'm not going to open it. It's the same battery and it's waterproofed, and I have a video on how I set this one up. It took me some time to figure out how to make sure that everything hooked up correctly, to have both the active target transducer here, which this one is called the Fisher. It's sold at the Dugout, and it has that transducer there, that active target. I have the regular sonar transducer here on a Yak Attack switchblade arm transducer mount. And what else have I changed? I got the I do have, this is the Lakewood Products Sidekick, which has really been nice for me using to organize anything with a treble hook. Fits in there really cleanly. I better pull this guy out, because I did forget one thing. I forgot my leverage landing net, so my boga grip will play prominently in today's trip. So this has just been a really nice thing to have right here in front of me. I did elevate the seat a little bit from where I had it before, sitting on the ground. The Osprey 1436, this is one of the first production ones. I know that Trey is still waiting on the licensure and everything for the top loading track. This is not the top loading track, but that is coming. Once he has that, then he'll get the first 20 or so up for sale on his website. Obviously, you got the Torqeedo Ultralight 1103 3 horsepower electric outboard with the 915 watt-hour battery. Crazy range with this setup. It drafts so shallow. It's I mean, you can see what little bit of water it's floating in. It'll go down a little bit once I'm sitting in there. Once my 220-pound carcass is on that seat, but not that much. I need about 2 2¼ inches is really you know, how shallow I can get through there. I do have the new Yak Attack Black Pack Pro. This is the 16 by 16. I don't like my rods pointing up. I actually had a little bit of static electricity. I had one rod up when I was on Lake Fork, and I reached back. It was humming, and it went zzz and got me. So I like them pointed back so I can go under docks, under branches, under all sorts of stuff. Got the GoPro here, the Dakota Lithium 10 amp hour that powers it. I got room for power poles on either side, although I don't have them. That's about it. Two of the anchors, those are the DeBomb anchors. So let's go ahead and get launched, and this is my first day learning this setup, so today's learning day for me. See if I can use this technology to understand what's out there a little bit better. So I'm starting off today with a Matlor's bluegill because whenever the largemouth stop spawning, or when they're done, the big first wave of fish come off the beds, and you know, they've protected their fry for, I don't know, what is it, a week or 10 days, and they're done. They're gonna head out in the direction of the main lake looking for that deeper water, so when it gets hot, They're going to stay cool and keep their metabolism slow. But on the way, they're going to stop by bluegill beds, which are just starting to, you know, as soon as the largemouth are done, they start firing off. And it's a great place for them to you know, late spring, early summer, post-spawn, they can get a bite to eat pretty easily, because the bluegill, just like the largemouth, will protect their bed and run off smaller fish, and they run them right into the post-spawn largemouth. So if I can find, with side imaging, which I have with this HDS7 with the regular transducer, if I can find some bluegill beds, but I actually remember from years past a couple places where the bluegill stack up, and run this bluegill swim bait past there, you know, there's going to be a big largemouth that says, I'll take that. I will absolutely eat that bluegill. We'll see. It's an active area. It's worth targeting before we go out onto the deep points.
Now, I know a lot of folks are going to acknowledge the date that I said. It's May 19th in southern Pennsylvania, and are going to say, no, Jeff, that's not post-spawn. That's the middle of the spawn. And you're right. But the bigger ones, they don't all do it at once, and the bigger ones go first. So I'm kind of looking for, you know, the post spawners that are really ready to eat bluegill on bluegill beds. You know, you get the first set of fish that'll go earlier in May, or roughly. I know it's water temperature dependent, but there'll be fish that'll be spawning in this body of water, you know, I think well into June. So the bigger ones go first, and that's kind of what I'm looking for with this bluegill swim bait.
All right, so I'm using this for the first time, and I'm panning sort of left and right, and I've already seen in this 15 to, I don't know, 25 foot depth, I'm seeing some fish moving around right on the bottom. And let me see if I can pan it in a direction where I see one. I know that I've seen two of them that are just obviously a fish right on the bottom. And they moved kind of in my direction, like they swam underneath me. One thing I'm noticing is a little bit of blinking, and I'm wondering if I pull this one out, and I'm not using it, is that going to go away? And say it's lessened. Maybe that was part of the interference, but you know, it's facing sort of out in this direction, and I can fully adjust that head. But I'm out here over 27 feet, and there's nothing, and I'm gonna keep that running straight. I could pan with it, but I feel like I'm getting more done. Let me get my paddle out of the way. I'm getting more done by just moving left and right with my feet, with the foot control steering and the Torqeedo, just kind of, you know, knowing that this is aimed forward. So it's going to be right off of my right foot wherever I'm pointed. And this is the point that comes out into deeper water. I don't know, just figuring this out. I am tempted to go to the back of that cove and just take a look with this, but for now, I did see two fish out here in my learning it. Okay, that's obvious. Oh, that was a big school of something off of this. There's a tree right there. I got it pointed out there. And this school of fish is moving from deep water right there up into the base of that tree. What are they? Bunch of white perch maybe? it was real obvious before I hit record that they scooted up. As I moved in, they responded to my getting close to it. Now they're sort of stationary. But that's a bunch of probably white perch, I'm guessing. You probably won't be able to see it, but there is a carp cruising along in there, and I'm hoping that this makes for a real easy find on the active target. I'm panning to the side, and I think I just caught the edge of him. It's kind of hard to hold the camera and do this at the same time, but I'm panning left. There's some grass. Come on, carp. They might have moved shallower than I can see. There's a couple fish in the trench. See them? Yeah, they're moving. It's going to take a while to get used to this, but I think it's going to be even harder to say, yeah, that's a bass, that's a carp, that's a catfish, that's a perch, whatever it is. But you definitely see the fish moving in the grass. It seems like it's important to get yourself stationary. I think if the wind's blowing you real hard, that makes this even harder. So I know this isn't a really exciting video because I'm not catching anything, and that really wasn't the point of today. The point of today was to learn the active target system. Here's something that I'm just kind of putting together is the value of it, beyond just saying, okay, there's fish there, there's fish there. It's looking at the actual contour out in front of you. Whereas with side imaging, you're seeing contour and structure and cover that's behind you. This is, you know, what you're moving up on, and you can get stationary and look and see, okay, it's deep here, but then it comes up right in front of me. We got some of that right here, just as an example. I gotta get the camera angled down so you can kind of see it, but I'm panning out to deeper water, and then I turn it into shallow water. Let's see what that looks like. So deep water off to my right, and then I pan it to the left, which is kind of in front of me, and you can see it flattens out and gets shallow, which is this water out in front. So I can see that it goes like this, which makes this a little bit of a mini point. Let's go out on it and see if there's any fish activity on that point. You know, I've seen a good bit, and it's kind of hard to capture on video. You kind of have to constantly have the video running to capture any of it, but I'm panning left and right. My switch hands that I'm holding the camera. So panning right into deep water, panning left up onto the shallow point, and I'm actually all the way left here. So I'm in 12 feet, pointing directly in that direction. And that tells me something. Panning almost straight out in front, and then you can see the drop off, and then over to the right, and it's wide open, you know, deep down to 26, 27 feet. You know, somewhere on that continuum, you'll see fish at some point that tells you, hey, they're holding at 12 feet or 17 feet. I'm seeing more fish at this level or that level. So, you know, these are some white perch. See them out there. It's hard to lock right onto them, but those are suspended fish. Look at that fish. Those are probably carp. It's funny. They're there and they're gone. And if you're if you're moving, if you're in motion, like with the wind blowing you or the motor going, it's hard to lock onto stuff. Here, there's more fish that are deep. Let's look at them. These guys right here. Perch, I think. It's cool. It's cool technology, for sure. Just haven't totally figured out how to say, hey, that's a bass. It's probably a bass or even a muskie on the outside edge of those perch there. What are they holding on? There's some kind of structure out there. I'm panning left, right. What is that? Something's out there. Alright, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to change to, I'm going to put, I know it's off this point, I'm going to put this guy back in the water, change to side scan, and we're going to do a drive-by. I'm going to pull this guy out. Don't worry, that'll go back in there in a second, but I'm just kind of stowing it there. I want to know what that structure is out there and drop a waypoint on it, because it's got a lot of fish on there. I think that I'm pretty sure that they're perch, because it's a lot of them, but man, when these fish are done on the beds, they'll go on that point. It's a structure in a rock pile or whatever it is worth marking. So I'm going right where I was. I'm going to ease up on my throttle. Should be out here somewhere. I think I cut it shallower than I want to, so it's probably this thing over on my left. Look at that. Yep. So we're gonna put the cursor right on there and push the little flag button and hit save. Yep. We'll put a couple more. There's a bunch of them, bunch of things out there. Waypoint, save. Goes all the way over there. I could actually see a fish on that one. Let's come back to it. Alright, I put 3 waypoints on there, on that left side, that I could see because I found it with this scanning, and now I've marked it with that, and then, you know, I don't know, 2 weeks from now, there'll be bass on there. I'll catch them. Tempted to just catch the perch. Alright, let's go back to, actually let's go to the chart and just acknowledge that, yeah, those are my 3 waypoints. I gotta load better charts because it thinks it's a big block. But whatever, I got those waypoints, I can come back to it, know that I'm pointing towards them, put my shaky head on them. There could be a bass down there. We'll see. This is also kind of a cool thing to do. Cruise along at like, well, it's 1.2 mile an hour, and I've got this kicked out towards the direction of that bank, and all I'm doing is just scanning and saying, who's home? There's something. There's a little one. But you get an overall idea of how many fish are in this particular area, and there's not a lot here. Let's keep this going. We're gonna round the tip of this little point by the bridge. We know there's gonna be fish by the bridge. Let's see this thing light up here in a little bit. I'm pointing this way towards that bank, and I'm in, looks like about 17 feet of water right underneath me. And all I'm doing is using this to kind of scan and say, hey, what's between me and the bank? How many fish are there? And usually around the bridge, you're gonna, especially with all that riprap, you're gonna see some fish. So let's take a look. And I feel like I'm moving a little bit too quick to really get a bead on it, so I'm slowing down. This wind is making it sort of tough to be, but you can see a couple fish in there. I almost feel like I want to get stationary again. Like stopped is how I'm getting the best idea of what I'm looking at, and stopped and panning, but I do think there's value in moving along at speed and just seeing what's over there. But for sure we got a bunch of fish in this area. There they are. All of them up shallow. There's some below us. They're small. When they've been big, when they've been carp or bass, they've been, you know, they've looked like fish and not just dots. Look at them all moving though. They're responding to me being overhead, for sure. So those guys are between 25 feet where I'm sitting and the bank right there. And that's what's looking at them. Very cool. So that's an active area right out in front of me. Kind of panning left and right to try and get centered on them. They're mostly, yeah, they're out there. I think they're panfish, but you know, it's out in 15 feet of water. Could be a couple bass there.
One of those marks out deep was a bass. When I say deep, I mean most of the fish on this lake right now are in less than, say, 5 feet of water. This guy was out somewhere between 12 and 15, I'd say. I can see a lot of these fish. You gonna jump one more time? Nice. By scanning with the active target, in most of these cases, you know, you see rock piles or points or ledges that come out into deeper water. You can see the bluegill, and somewhere mixed in with those bluegill are the bass that are the non-spawners, and that was one of them.
So I just can't fish it and film it at the same time. So I'm just gonna film it, and hopefully it conveys, and hopefully it happens the way that I've been seeing it happen. It's sort of happening right now, but I'm angling this out in the direction of, you know, that I'm headed. And I'm not so much looking for them, like, because I know they're up in this stuff, but I'm looking further out. And I just passed a bunch of them. Let me move out a hair. Come back in. And I'm looking in that, you know, the 10, 12 foot range. Cruising along. Let me get closer so I can point what I see, what excites me. Okay, that's grass. See how it's linear, it comes straight up? I just missed it, but it was there for a second, and I'm trying to pan to it and find it again, but maybe that won't happen. But I know, because I've seen it on this bank with these rocks a couple times out in like 10, 12 feet out in front of it, that we're gonna see some good marks. See them? Coming up. They're actually coming towards a little cloud of bait fish. I gotta pan to stay on them, but they're in there, and it's right out in front of that, and that's ultimately, you know, what I think is going to work in terms of being able to cruise, scan, and say, this area is active. The next little section, I didn't see anything, and constantly kind of looking right to left and back and saying, who's there? And you got to move slow, but it's worth it, because eventually you'll see things moving and you'll be like, oh, those are fish. They're there. And I think more than anything, it just helps you identify biologically active areas. And I'm excited to see how that plays out as we move into the early summer and these fish move from shallow out to deeper water. And I mean, I know they're on points. I know they move from big spawning areas out into the main lake, get on points, to actually see, okay, they're at 28 feet or 19 feet or whatever it is. And this point is a good one. That's where I think this is going to really help me quite a bit. Right now, yes, I could pound the banks. All the way up this bank has fish, and I've caught a couple that are out in this range, in this, you know, probably 10, 12, maybe 15 foot range. I don't think more than 15 feet, but it's gonna change here. Another 2-3 weeks, 15 feet plus is gonna be pretty active.
That one's a little bit better. You feel like you're about to jump over there. You gonna jump? You certainly have a lot of power. It's a good fish. I've not actually seen it yet. Yeah, that's a good fish. That's one I wish I brought my net for. Oh wow. Yeah, that's a good one. Can I get my thumb in your mouth, please? So I can't say that I saw this fish on Active Target, but I'm in an area that I identified a whole lot of activity in, and it is a nice fish. And I just knew, seeing a cluster of fish in that area, that if I, you know, put this little finesse jig out in front of it, out in that deeper water, again, probably 15 feet out in front of, you know, a bank where they're probably spawning. He certainly was not on a bed, even though, look at his tail. He's probably moving in to start creating beds, but he was not on a bed. Cool, got a good one.